They call themselves outlaws, branded by others as rebel riders with a criminal cause.
This is the life I chose. I knew I was going to go to jail.
Their membership numbers in the thousands worldwide. Drug dealing, gun smuggling, prostitution, and extortion have earned gang members millions of dollars around the globe. To law enforcement agencies, outlaw motorcycle clubs are highly organized criminal organizations.
They're selling drugs, they're beating people up, they're killing people.
And their numbers are growing.
They are the last bastion of outlaws in America, really.
Outlaw motorcycle clubs are some of the fastest growing gangs in the world. They call themselves one-percenters because they are the 1% of motorcycle riders who operate outside the law.
Yeah, well, you're a 1%er. You live your life your way, regardless of what anybody thinks. I was a pretty cocky, arrogant son of a... You know, all I wanted to do was ride and fight, you know? The 1%er lifestyle. Living it, breathing it.
Hells Angels, pagans, outlaws, Mongols, banditos. The names embody power and rebellion. Although there is one club called the Outlaws, law enforcement labels all one-percenter motorcycle clubs outlaw motorcycle gangs.
But when people call us a gang, I find that very offensive. You know, I've never been a part of any gang. We're not a gang, we're a motorcycle club.
They're very dangerous. They're actively engaged in criminal activities.
Outlaw motorcycle clubs first emerged in the 1940s after combat veterans from the Second World War banded together to socialize and ride motorcycles. In 1947, a three-day rally for motorcycle enthusiasts in Hollister, California, descended into chaos. Dozens were arrested for fighting, drunkenness, and street racing. The following year, in 1948, the first Hells Angels chapter was born.
The American Motorcycle Association deemed that 99% of the motorcycle riding population were law-abiding citizens. And it was the 1%ers that were the outlaws.
Shortly after the club's creation came the distinctive trademarked death head emblem and logo. Rival clubs sprang up and eventually joined forces. The Hells Angels now has 230 chapters across America and in 26 foreign countries.
Back in the 70s, it was pretty much a lawless club. You know, you did what you wanted to do, partied, doing drugs, whatever, riding your motorcycle. It's kind of something that was real intriguing to me.
Current members hold to a strict policy of never talking with the media. This member agreed to talk only on the condition that we hide his identity.
We consider ourselves the elite of the elite. We are the best. We're number one. Us as a Hells Angel Nation, we don't hang with any other club. We're number one, and that's the way we want to stay.
For decades, members of the club have been involved in assault, extortion, bombing, murder, and drug trafficking.
Weapons and drugs go hand in hand with the Hells Angels. We're the baddest of the bad. We can do anything we want to do.
Those who show a willingness to join outlaw biker gangs start off as a prospect and are not allowed to wear the full club logo.
You got an initiation period of 12, 16 months, which consists of watching the bikes. You go out to bars and stuff, watch the clubhouse, doing duties around the clubhouse, stocking the bar, cleaning up, stuff like that.
To become a Hell's Angel, you have to commit. Your life revolves around the club. The more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it.
In the old days, you used to go out and there'd be one other member and you'd do a crime or something, and you'd be at a situation and you took care of the situation, you know, it meant beating somebody up or whatever. It helped you move up the statue a lot quicker and get you in the club.
A prospect needs the votes of full members to wear the patch.
I've known some brothers, they jumped out in fights and stuff, and they've been shot by rival clubs, and they've been voted in the following week.
John Beal, the former president of the Maryland Hells Angels, became a full patch member of the club in 2003.
I've been riding motorcycle clubs for the last 20 years. I was the talk of the town. I was one of the best guys. We were initiated as Hells Angels. Best day of my life. As soon as I changed that patch, I became this monster. From just the jacket I wore, I put that patch on and I paid the price. You know, I eventually was arrested. I eventually got charged with a crime, and I eventually did time. I eventually lost almost everything I owned because of that patch. But I would do it again tomorrow.
John Beal was arrested on drug and gun charges after a raid on his chapter's clubhouse. Today, he stays close to the culture through his tattoo shop.
Anyone who rides a motorcycle, I don't care, at least anytime you've ever put your ass on a motorcycle, you wanted to be a Hells Angel. Hells Angels was the best.
The Hells Angels lifestyle includes patches, piercings, and tattoos of allegiance. The Hells Angels trademarked winged death head. 1%, glorifying the tradition of the 1%er outlaw status.
You know, it is almost connected, tattoos and bikers. It's our lifestyle. We don't hold them back because we're worried what society's going to think about us. It doesn't concern us what society thinks. We're not going to let anyone tell us what we can and can't do.
Across the country, police keep a close eye on 1%er motorcycle clubs.
All clubs have common enemies, and it's law enforcement agencies. I mean, that's who's against every motorcycle club out there. I don't care if you're big or small. I don't care if you're 1%er. I don't care if you're a family club. If they can't control you, they're going to shut you down.
Today, Minnesota police are bracing for the arrival of some of the most dangerous 1%er leaders in the country. The Hells Angels East Coast leaders are holding a secret planning meeting. In 4 months, the Minnesota chapter is hosting one of the Hells Angels' biggest gatherings of the year, the USA Run. Hells Angels runs are notorious for excessive drinking, drug use, and violence. Minnesota Hells Angels leaders have chosen Carlton, a small town outside Minneapolis, to host the USA Run.
The Hells Angels USA Run hasn't been here in Minnesota since 1969. Every charter in the United States is going to send somebody here, at least usually 2 members minimum. And then there'll be members from around the world attending also. Motorcycle gangs are a tough nut to crack. It's a secret society. It's organized crime.
The Hells Angels meeting gives police a chance to identify the men calling the shots for the gang. Inside this unmarked building, Hennepin County Sheriff's Captain Chris Omot holds his own secret briefing. Omot calls his gang strike force together to put in place a surveillance plan for the Hells Angels East Coast officers meeting. or ECOM.
All right, guys, we're going to do some surveillance today on the Hells Angels at the clubhouse primarily. The ECOM meeting's supposed to start at 2 o'clock today. That's the intel that we have so far.
His team will be documenting who comes and goes and relaying the information to law enforcement agencies across the U.S.
This is the current president, vice president. My understanding information we got, he's the guy in charge of the USA run this year, and I would say most definitely he's going to be present today.
Captain Omat called in Steve Cook, who runs an organization that specializes in dealing with motorcycle clubs in the Midwest. Cook can offer valuable advice to police on dealing with the upcoming Hells Angels rally.
He's worked a few of the USA runs in the past, and Steve, you want to just kind of fill in what we're going to be expecting this summer?
Conservatively, you're looking at anywhere between 350 and 400 full patch, outlaw motorcycle gang members up in a small concentrated area.
Cook will join Omat and his team as they surveil the clubhouse.
Last but not least, treat them with respect. If anyone's going to be a jerk, let them be the jerk. Let's treat them with respect. Get our intel. Let's get that intel out after the meeting today. All right, guys, let's be safe.
Coming up, a small Minnesota town prepares for an invasion. Later, police in Oregon brace for a gang war. The Minnesota chapter of the Hells Angels are holding a secret planning meeting for their infamous USA run. Police plan to surveil the clubhouse and identify important Hells Angels leaders in town for the meeting. The Minneapolis police are worried about the Hells Angels' rival club, the Outlaws, based in neighboring Wisconsin.
I think what you'll see today is your East Coast officers showing up. You're going to see a lot of pre-planning for the USA run. That's going to be the primary topic of discussion, and I think they're definitely going to be talking about the fact that the Outlaws are going to be right next door when this event occurs, and how are they going to handle that?
Omat and Cook start by canvassing the area to determine how many bikers are in town.
Yeah, go ahead.
They get a tip that a group of Hells Angels have been spotted outside a local funeral home.
How many HAs came up here, any idea?
30 to 35.
I'm sure
The two are surprised at the number of bikers in town. Outlaw motorcycle clubs in the U.S. are on the rise. One group targeted for recruitment is the U.S. military.
Anytime you have any kind of military action, like we're having right now in Iraq and Afghanistan, you do get a percentage of guys that come back that definitely identify with this lifestyle. There are members of these gangs that are currently deployed overseas that gives them an excellent opportunity to fill people out, to be around them in combat situations potentially, and to see if they have what it takes.
According to police, even at a solemn event like a funeral, biker gangs do not suspend their criminal activities.
Just because they're at a funeral doesn't mean that, they're not armed or that they're not, carrying drugs or using drugs. It's pretty commonplace for them to have at least a vehicle in the parking lot that has weapons in it so that the other members know where to go if they need to access something. I can see a couple prospects out front, but...
Before the funeral ends, neighbors across town report that a large group of bikers are having a party at a private residence.
Look at all the bikes lined up there. What do you see down there, Steve? I know I saw Los Fuentes, and obviously the Freeman just pulled up.
The Hells Angels don't treat all biker clubs as sworn enemies. Groups of clubs who work with the Hells Angels are showing up around the city.
In the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, because this is Hells Angels territory, they run the show up here, so everybody's subordinate to them, but they're all equally involved in criminal activities.
predominantly drug trafficking.
There's at least 3 biker clubs here.
The Hells Angels use gangs like these to let them know what's going on in the area. That way, if a rival gang's trying to make an inroad, these are the guys that are going to tip you off. These guys are also people that they're going to use to run their drugs, to commit some of their criminal activities for them, because again, it insulates the Hells Angels. If these guys get jammed up, that doesn't have any direct reflection back on the Hells Angels.
They're out in front of the clubhouse right now, looking up and down and all around.
They're talking at the clubhouse. It's getting a lot of activity buzzing there now again. Yeah, we're rolling now from...
Omad and Cook head to the clubhouse. The Hells Angels have lookouts posted, a sure sign that something is going on.
Yeah, Chris and Jeff were in the area.
Outside the Minneapolis clubhouse, Omad and Cook are concerned. The vice president is now also on lookout duty, a role usually reserved for rookie club members called prospects.
You got the vice president out there standing out on the street. That just seems a little odd.
Captain Chris Omad, who is leading the law enforcement surveillance team, makes a difficult decision and feels compelled to break cover to find out what's going on.
In a situation like this, I don't have an issue letting them know that I'm out here. And it's both for their security and our security. And I told him if there's any issues to give me a call, and he said he wouldn't do that, and that the reason they wouldn't do that is because it's like being a snitch. They're not going to snitch, so.
The vice president is tight-lipped and tells Omad he has everything under control. Omad isn't buying it. The East Coast officers' meeting is still hours away. Omad and Cook leave the Hells Angels clubhouse to continue keeping watch across the city. They soon get word that back at the clubhouse, a prospect drives off in a gray car. Omad suspects he's en route to pick up one of the leaders who's arrived from out of town.
There's the Magnum right there. And there's our trail car right there. It's, gotta love technology. Gotta love it, yeah. Oh, here's the car right here coming right at us. So I'm gonna just keep on driving like nothing's happening. This is one of the hotels that the out-of-state members are staying at. And so we're just trying to figure out who he's picking up and what members are involved, and see if we can identify some members here. Guy on the far right looks like Box headed from Connecticut.
Omad and Cook follow the car.
Can you turn there?
Yeah, they're checking for a tail. Yeah, they can.
Omad and Cook want to make some positive IDs. They are trying to determine exactly who they are dealing with. An illegal U-turn gives them the chance. An officer in Omad's team pulls over the Hells Angels.
Oh, they got him stopped, actually. They got him stopped over here.
There's another familiar face.
Bald-headed guy we had him stop in Branson. He's usually got a pretty good attitude problem. I'll go ahead and photograph these guys for you. I'll just take a picture real quick, sir. So I know you're from New York.
On my license, you can check all my You don't need my photo.
Okay.
You guys got your own database, you got everything.
Okay.
All right? I mean, be fair. You know, you're pulling us over, you're stopping us from just, being here. So if you want to, give us tickets or do what you got to do, then give us tickets.
Okay.
You guys are, dragging us out like, with some kind of kid, I don't know what.
What I'm trying to say is we're going to do what we're going to do.
Right,
I'm going to take some pictures while I'm out here. Take a picture real quick, sir. One member was definitely a sergeant-at-arms. I did note that the sergeant-at-arms had his Tequila patch, which means that, he has assaulted a law enforcement officer before. He also had a Filthy Few patch, which, Filthy Few patch is known to be given to members who've killed for the club. So, obviously, a mover and shaker, definitely, somebody of note, and the exact kind of person that they would be sending to a meeting like this.
Swear, Jeff.
I thought he had this in the door handle. When he reached his license, it fell out.
The driver had a ball-peen hammer, which is a pretty common weapon that these guys use. There's something that, we're definitely aware of.
New York's representatives for the meeting are given a warning and released. Back at the clubhouse, more than 50 delegates come and go. But there's no trouble, and frustratingly for police, no intel on what was discussed inside. In 4 months, Omot and his team will be in Carlton, keeping a close eye on the USA run the Hells Angels planned today. Because 1%er biker gangs are nationwide, police are forming alliances to monitor biker activity. Halfway across the country, in Oregon, one of Omot and Cook's allies in the war against outlaw bikers is Detective Dave Burrows. He is battling a sudden influx of Mongols into Eugene, Oregon. Burrows is an undercover officer and cannot be seen on camera.
The outlaws, the Mongols, have allied themselves in a war against the Hells Angels. The Hells Angels throughout the world, we believe, is somewhere right around 3,200 to 3,500 members. The Mongols have approximately 500 to 600 members.
Their logo is a Mongol warrior wearing sunglasses and astride a chopper. The motorcycle club was established in 1969 in Montebello, California. Like the first outlaw motorcycle clubs in the 1940s, most Mongols were former U.S. servicemen. This time, veterans of the Vietnam War. Like the Hells Angels, the Mongols have their own patches and symbols.
This is the Mongol skull and crossbones. I've been told by a Mongols member that this means that that person took care of business for the club. And what that means is they've committed some kind of act of violence on behalf of the club, either against another club or against law enforcement. The 1%er Mongol forever, forever Mongol. It's a 1% diamond. That means they consider themselves to be 1% of the motorcyclists who live outside the law.
Coming up, federal law enforcement agencies infiltrate the Mongols Motorcycle Club. The Hells Angels target a Mongol leader. And the Mongols make a risky move, breaking protocol as they push into Oregon. In Oregon, police are closely monitoring the Mongols' expansion into their state. Years earlier, the growth of the Mongol Motorcycle Club in California sparked a violent turf war with the Hells Angels.
Yeah, there was a lot of blood spilled, definitely. But that's what happens when you go to war. I'm not going to deny the fact that we're not violent. We're very violent, but only when pushed. I already lost one war in Vietnam. I wasn't about to lose another one.
The turf war over California led to the deaths of several Hells Angels and Mongols. The clubs eventually reached a fragile truce. Police in Oregon are intent on preventing another 1%er gang war. There is reason for concern. The Mongols are currently a club in crisis. In several undercover operations, federal law enforcement agencies infiltrated the Mongols and arrested over 500 members on illegal racketeering charges. And in an unprecedented move, the government seized the Mongols' trademarked patch. By law, members can no longer wear it. The club has redesigned their colors and now wear a modified logo.
I have the right as an American coming out of Vietnam fighting for my country. If I want to put on a Mongol patch and fly down the highway, that's my right. There's nothing wrong with that.
You want to take my patch and have me not wear it, it doesn't mean I'm going to stop being a Mongol. You're just not going to know who the Mongols are anymore.
Once you're a Mongol, you're always a Mongol. We're not changing into another club. We're not going to fly another patch. We're Mongols.
Mike McCartney is a former member of the Mongols.
We're the baddest of the bad, the hardcore of the hardcore. Our hearts are pretty much into this lifestyle 100%. We live and breathe and die for our club. There's nothing more of a natural high than riding with a pack of
of your brothers. Just the rush of the roar of bikes going down the road, the roar of that sound.
McCartney played a key role in the Mongols' East Coast expansion, often encroaching into enemy turf. In a dangerous move, he chartered a Mongols club in Hells Angels, New York territory. According to McCartney, the Hells Angels retaliated by greenlighting him.
If you're green-lighted, that means there's a price tag on your head to remove you out of that picture. Because in their eyes, if you're removed out of that equation as a leader, 99% of the time, those guys that are under you are going to be scared to take off. I really don't go out in public too often in crowded places just for the sake of running into a current enemy, former enemy.
Currently, the Mongols are in a state of expansion. Last fall, the club quietly charted the first of 4 chapters in Oregon. Flying their colors and wearing the state rocker without the permission of Oregon's existing biker gangs could provoke turf wars. Reporter Brian Denson has written extensively about the Mongols for the Oregonian newspaper.
We've had outlaw bikers in Oregon for a long, long time, since the 50s. And for the most part, they have stayed under the radar. But there have been murders here, and there have been rapes, and there have been a lot of drug running and motorcycle theft and things like that over the years. But it's stayed frequently under the wire. I think if the public knew much about outlaw bikers, they would be a little more concerned than they are.
There are 5 one-percenter outlaw biker clubs in Oregon. The new Mongol chapters are patching over members from other one-percenter clubs and causing problems.
They tend to take over wherever they go. You know, the public sees these guys out riding in numbers, they see 3-piece patches, and most of them probably don't know what that means, and they probably don't know what a Mongols patch means. But the police certainly know.
In Eugene, Oregon, police plan to deter violence between the one-percenter clubs. Detective Dave Burrows works undercover and cannot be seen on camera.
Tonight we're going to go out and try and gather some intelligence from the Free Souls church meeting. The Free Souls are the oldest and the largest motorcycle gang in the state of Oregon. Every weekend they hold a church meeting where they get together and talk about club business. So a part of what we want to do tonight is identify prospects, and if we can get a stop on them for some kind of violation to further identify them, that would be great.
In Oregon, the Free Souls and 2 other local clubs are aligned with the Hells Angels. This makes the Mongols their natural enemy. For police, gathering intelligence on one-percenters can be dangerous.
I think keep in the back of your mind that sometimes they have a follow car. Just keep in mind the idea about a possible ambush at any time about these guys.
As always, use officer safety. Expect there's going to be weapons, whether they're legal or not. All right, let's hit it.
Detective Burrows and Officer White head to the clubhouse.
Free Souls are all homegrown guys. They've been around since 1969, so there's a lot of older members. They started to recruit a lot of younger members.
Like the last 2 or 3 years, they went from kind of a 40, 50, 60s club to a lot of guys in their 20s and 30s coming in.
When they were started in the late 60s, they were fairly closely aligned with the Hells Angels. They don't want the Mongols here. The Free Souls members I've talked to have allayed their fears that if there's a war between the Free Souls and the Mongols, or any of the Oregon clubs and the Mongols, they're going to swarm the state and there's going to be an all-out war.
They stop at the clubhouse. The Free Souls church meeting has started. During church meetings, women and prospects have to wait outside. Burrows asks to speak with a member of the club. He wants the bikers to know they're in the area. Being visible is one way to deter a turf war. The Free Souls member Burroughs spoke with has his own deterrent.
He's got a permit to carry a concealed weapon.
That you can see the outline of his pistol under his vest. In the past, when I've stopped that guy, he's had 2 pistols. And so what you end up with is you'll get a guy who's a felon. He won't have a pistol or a restricted weapon, but his buddy that's sitting right next to him has 2. So there's always guns around the club.
Later that night, Burroughs' team patrols the area around the Free Souls clubhouse to gather intelligence. They pull over several members and prospects for violations.
You live here in Eugene?
No, I don't.
Look at this. Laminated. You're a true Oregonian, sir. Edward David William.
You got no weapons on you?
Just a couple bucks left.
15.
Burroughs checks the bike to see if it's stolen. The VIN number clears. The biker is free to go.
He had a couple of pocket knives on him. No firearms. He was the president of the Goose Bay chapter of the Free Souls. He may still be, I'm not sure, and he wouldn't tell me. True 1%er style, he was willing to talk to me, but not really give me any information.
The following night in Portland, Burroughs and Officer White assist the police. The Mongols are throwing a party. Local 1%er clubs could choose this night to challenge them.
Law enforcement ran some surveillance operations today around the funeral of an Outsiders member. We had concerns with the Mongols party here that's in town at the same time, that there may be trouble between the clubs. There was a lot of members in town, at least 100 members from the Oregon clubs, and it looks like we probably have about 30 to 40 Mongols at least in town.
Tensions are high. Police keep a close eye on 1%er clubhouses and haunts.
To our right is the clubhouse for the Gypsy Joker Motorcycle Club. They've been historically the most powerful club in Oregon.
Officers are out in force tonight to prevent a violent confrontation between biker clubs and to gather intelligence on the number of 1%ers in town and where they are from.
It looks like there's probably about 15 to 20 motorcycles out there. I also saw numerous vehicles out there that belongs to some of our Oregon Mongols. Throughout the night, I've seen members from Eugene, Portland, Medford, members from San Jose, Los Angeles, and San Diego. All right, we've got several members standing outside. You can see their new colors. A couple of Gypsy Joker members hanging out with them.
Hey, take a picture of this! Suck my bitch!
That's how they talk to all law enforcement if they can. Their motto is respect few, fear none.
On this night, the Mongols and local 1%er clubs coexisted without incident. And Detective Burroughs and Officer White notice an interesting development.
This is the first time we've seen the Gypsy Jokers and the Mongols hanging out together in the same place. No speculation. It doesn't necessarily mean they're allies. It doesn't mean they're friends. We don't know. Looks like Portland has things under control. We're going to go ahead and call it a night and head back to Eugene.
Sounds good to me.
Coming up, the Mongols and Hell's Angels clash with deadly results. Police in Arizona prepare for an influx of the Hell's Angels. And 500 Hell's Angels come to small-town Minnesota for the USA run. Wherever outlaw biker gangs are battling for turf, there is always the risk of violent confrontation. The Mongols and the Hell's Angels have been at war for 3 decades. In Laughlin, Nevada, the public saw just how much the Mongols and the Hell's Angels hate each other in 2002. A truce between the clubs was broken when more than 100 Hells Angels and Mongols brawled on the Harrah's Laughlin casino floor during the Laughlin River Run. At 2 in the morning, 40 members of the Mongols were partying at the bar in the casino when a group of Hells Angels entered.
We showed up at the casino to confront the Mongols.
I walked up and tried to stop it.
The green arrow on the footage of this actual event follows Roger Pinney.
There was a few brothers that were kind of trying to defuse the situation.
I was making negotiations. I was a national prince. It was my duty, I felt, to go up there and try to stop this thing, because I know from experience, once that first throw, bottle, anything comes down, people are going to die.
One brother, Ray, just he didn't like what he was hearing, and he kicked the guy in the chest.
From that on, it just was no stopping anything.
We were pulling out hammers and hitting people, and it just escalated from one thing to the next.
Knives, hammers, wrenches, bats, and guns were used during the fight, sending casino workers and players scrambling for cover.
I saw an HA grabbing one of my brothers. I grabbed him from behind and pulled him off, and that's when I stabbed 3 times in the back and thrown to the ground and kicked and punched.
The deadly brawl left 2 Hells Angels and 1 Mongol dead. In total, over a dozen bikers were injured.
Kind of a overreaction to a situation that I don't think needed to go that far, but we will do what we got to do when we got to do it.
Despite their violent reputation, the Hells Angels claim they're held together on the strong bonds of brotherhood. A brotherhood that extends beyond the walls of prison. In Florence, Arizona, every year, Hells Angels from around the country gather for the Florence Run. The purpose of the run is to support club members incarcerated in several of Florence's 9 jail complexes.
This is the 25th anniversary of the prison run. It started as a way for the bikers to show homage to their incarcerated friends and their clubs. We have a large police presence here just to make sure that we don't have any problems.
Police anticipate 1,500 Hells Angels and affiliates will participate in the prison run.
I need another set of barricades right here, all the way across.
They set up barricades along the route. During the 2-day run, Hells Angels ride past the prisons and go into the town of Florence. For police and Hells Angels, the run went as planned. Historically, the Florence prison run has gone smoothly. The same cannot be said for the USA run. The last event in Montana brought rape allegations. And the year before, in Arkansas, a fight with members of a rival gang involved knives and baseball bats and left 4 people seriously wounded. In Minnesota, state, local, and federal authorities are prepared for the coming onslaught of 1%er outlaw bikers. As the Hells Angels USA run nears, reports start coming in that the Hells Angels rivals, the Outlaws, and potentially their allies, the Mongols, are threatening to cause trouble at the run. Understanding the violence the Angels are capable of when confronted by a rival gang, law enforcement is potentially facing a big problem.
Getting in fights, getting shot, or warring with them is probably as common as you going to the store every day. We deal with it every day.
July 30th, Carlton, Minnesota. The start of the Hells Angels USA run. Carlton has only 810 residents, and with only 19 sworn officers, Sheriff Kelly Lake calls in reinforcements from around the country. Agents from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms are on the ground. ICE, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, lends a helicopter for aerial surveillance. Police from across the state send officers. And the media arrives. Everyone is watching for a potential confrontation between the Hells Angels and one of their rivals, the Outlaws. They are a club located in the neighboring state. But so far, driving rain has seen most of the Angels spend their first day in the casino, bar, and hotel.
I think it'd be very accurate to say that the Hells Angels have been locked down since they've gotten here, between law enforcement and the weather not cooperating. There hadn't been a lot of places for them to go.
The Angels rented a local bar and parked trailers to shield themselves from prying eyes.
They blocked it off this morning. You could pull right up in here and
word arrives from police conducting surveillance in Wisconsin. The Outlaws and possibly their allies, the Mongols, are beginning to mass on the border.
there's a real threat with the Outlaws being within 10 miles of where we're standing. All it takes is for one or two members get a little, liquor in them, and next thing you know, it sounds like a real good idea to, hey, let's go flex our muscles, beat our chests a little bit, let's go drive to where the Angels are, see if we can find one out.
Next, the bonds of brotherhood are tested as the Angels move out to defend their honor. Tensions mount as the Angels head for the border to confront their rivals. Hundreds of Hell's Angels descend on the tiny town of Carlton in northern Minnesota for their annual USA run. For 3 days, an uneasy peace has been maintained through a heavy police presence. But now there's a new threat, as several chapters of the rival Outlaws Motorcycle Club have been pouring into the nearby state of Wisconsin, less than an hour away. Each group is prepared to do whatever it takes to defend territory. For the Outlaws, that includes Wisconsin, while the Angels claim Minnesota. All week, the heavy police presence has managed to keep trouble to a minimum, and so far, their sworn enemies, the Outlaws, have not crossed from nearby Wisconsin. Law enforcement is working around the clock to try and keep the two clubs apart. They fear a clash in Carlton could have national implications. It's the last day of the USA run. Many Angels will be heading for an even bigger rally at Sturgis, South Dakota, when they ride out of town in a matter of hours. The police know that if there's trouble in Carlton, it will escalate at Sturgis. Steve Cook wants to personally size up the potential threat and travels to Wisconsin.
They're going to go at it at some point, somewhere. It's anybody's guess where that's going to happen at. Only God, the Outlaws, and the Hells Angels know when that's going to happen. We are approaching Superior, Wisconsin. This is where we understand that the Outlaws are congregating, and we're going to kind of drive over here and just kind of take a look, see what kind of numbers they have, see what their attitude is, kind of get a feel for them, if they look like they're on watch, on guard, see if they're amped up at all.
There are outlaws, but no sign of the Mongols. Cook is also relieved that there is relatively few of them. Fearing a deadly clash between the rivals, the next morning, police deploy aerial surveillance to monitor those on the move from Carlton.
It's almost like psychological warfare. They're flying over the top of the Hells Angels. It's a high intimidation for them.
On Interstate 35, a group of angels are spotted making a run for the border just 2 miles ahead. If they are allowed to cross it and encounter the outlaws, a violent altercation seems certain. It's a race against time as the police attempt to surround them. The angels are corralled into a parking lot where they're searched for weapons and questioned. Eventually, they are allowed to leave. The Outlaws and the Hells Angels respected each other's turf, and the USA run passed without major incident. The 5-day event brought over 1,000 traffic stops and 33 tickets. 3 Hells Angels were arrested, 1 member from New York for driving a stolen motorcycle.
This by far has been the best laid out operation that I've ever seen on a Hells Angel event like this. I think it took the Angels by surprise a little bit because I think they expected to, hey, we're going into small town USA up here, we're going to take over the town.
1%er biker clubs maintain that they are misunderstood and unfairly targeted by law enforcement. However, those who monitor the organizations insist that for many members, the clubs are simply a cover for widespread violence and criminality. The Hells Angels motto sums up the 2 points of view. When we do right, no one remembers. When we do wrong, no one forgets.
There's a mystique, I would say, about Hells Angels. 1%er clubs. There's a mystique to it. It's like that saying goes, for those that understand, no explanation is needed. For those that don't understand, no explanation is possible.
Police know 1%er biker gangs aren't going anywhere.
We're going to do what we have to do to get the bad guys. Obviously, within the law, we kind of view it as if we, don't get you today, we'll get you tomorrow.
I think in this country they'd have to change the Constitution first before they could outlaw Hells Angels. The club has always been very good at overcoming and adapting. Hasn't been around this long by accident, that's for sure.